The next presidential address is by Professor Shiromi Karunaratne. She's the president of Section C of Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science this year, 2020. And Professor Shiromi Karunaratne obtained her PhD from Saitama University, Japan, and from the same university. Then her bachelor's degree is from the University of Moratuwa, BSc Engineering. Professor Shiromi Karunaratne is a chartered civil engineer of Institute of Engineers, and she is also a chartered member of Institute of Practicing Environment Professionals, Sri Lanka. And she has been working in the Department of Civil Engineering, Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, from 2015 to date. So she has many achievements during her career as the head of the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at SLEAT, head of the Department of Earth Resources Engineering at University of Moratuwa, and so on. So, Professor Karunaratne, may I invite you to deliver your presidential address.
Thank you, Madam, for your very kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. Dear Madam, General President, members of the Council, Section C, and special invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and privilege to deliver the Presidential Address 2020 representing Sri Lanka Association for Advancement of Science, Section C, Engineering, Architecture and Quantity Surveying. According to the United Nations estimates and elaborated by Worldometer, the current world population as of December 2020 is 7.8 billion. The world's population is projected to reach 8.5 billion by 2030. How many more people can Mother Earth sustain? Is a question placed in front of you, me, and the scientific community in the world. Carrying capacity can be defined as the number of individuals that an environment can sustain without destroying or degrading the environment. While food availability, water supply, habitat space, and competition with other species are some of the limiting factors affecting the carrying capacity of a given environment. In human populations, other variables such as sanitation, diseases, and medical care also can play a role. The late 18th century philosopher Thomas Malthus argued that the human unquenchable urge to reproduce would ultimately overpopulate the planet, depleting all its resources and cause death in a mass famine. Just as Malthus argued 200 years ago, the amount of food that Earth can produce is subjected to a limit, irrespective of technological advancements done so far. The situation is no different regarding the second highest priority need of the mankind, which is shelter. This also demands more space to construct buildings and infrastructure facilities and availability of more consumer goods as well as more means of transport, resulting in the burning of more and more fossil fuel. Traditionally, the majority of the construction material are derived from non-renewable natural resources through mining and quarrying activities. With the increasing human population, there is an increased demand on natural resources to supply much needed building material. Today, second only to water, concrete is the most consumed material in the world. Compared to all the other building materials and used combined in construction, this is as much as 2 times. According to the world statistics, the total volume of cement production worldwide has amounted to 4.2 billion tons in 2019 compared to 1.39 in 1995, indicating a more than 200% increase over a period of less than just 25 years. World population growth over the same period is only 36%. In 2019, global production of industrial sand and gravel was an estimated 330 million metric tons. According to the World Steel Association, construction is one of the most important steel-using industries, accounting to more than 50% of the world's steel demand. There is enough evidence to conclude that the construction industry is one of the most impactful sectors in any economy. The quota on global material resources, energy and water use, as well as waste generation due to construction industry is highly significant. Construction industry is responsible for 33% of material consumption, 11% of global energy related CO2 emissions, and 54% of landfills due to lack of proper end-of-life cycle management methods. It is clear that building materials have an environmental impact at every life cycle stage: extraction, processing, manufacturing, transportation, construction, demolition, and disposal at the end of the building's useful life. It has been estimated that the production of 1 ton of Portland cement releases 1 ton of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, being a greenhouse gas, contributes to global warming, and the cement industry alone generates about 7% of it. One of the biggest environmental problems related to infrastructure development is energy use. The global building sector consumes around 36% of the world energy. According to the World Resources Institute's Climate Analysis Indicators tool, Sri Lanka's GHG profile in 2011 was dominated by the energy sector, contributing to 40%, followed by waste, land use change, and forestry. Energy sector emissions are dominated by transportation with 39%, while electricity and heat contributed to 28%. Other fuel combustion, manufacturing, and construction contributed to 27% and 5% respectively. Given the fact that majority of the electricity and heat contribution is associated with the operational energy of the buildings associated infrastructure, it can be seen that as a whole, the construction and operation of the country's building stock is responsible for nearly 33% of the Sri Lanka's GHG emission. As a country, Sri Lanka contributes to 45 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent to the total world GHG emissions. Although this is only 0.1% of the global emission, this has significant impacts on the country, having a US dollar 36,000 million GDP economy. With the carbon intensity of Sri Lanka's economy at approximately 1.5 times the world's average, there is potential to reduce GHG emissions relative to the GDP. Though its intended national determined contribution, Sri Lanka has communicated its intent to reduce GHG emissions unconditionally by 7% by 2030, compared to a business as usual scenario with 2010 as a base year, planning to achieve 4% from energy and 3% from the other sectors. Concrete in construction, the Colosseum in Rome are good examples to the durability of concrete, which is a composite of sand, aggregate, water mixed with lime-based kiln-baked binder. Look at the tallest concrete building in the world, Burj Khalifa in Dubai. This has consumed 33,000 cubic meters of concrete and 39,000 tons of steel. Next, have a look at the largest concrete structure in the world. The Three Gorges Dam, built on Yangtze River in China, consumed 28 million cubic meters of concrete and 463,000 metric tons of steel. After water, concrete is the most widely used substance on planet. For hundreds of years, humanity has been willing to accept the environmental downside due to the concrete production in return for the undoubted benefits of concrete. On the other hand, according to Guardian, concrete is the most destructive material on earth. Because of the cement industry, if the cement industry were a country, it would be the third largest carbon dioxide emitter in the world, with up to 2.8 billion tons, surpassed only by China and US. In reality, the lifespan of concrete is around 50 to 100 years and sometimes even less. Nearly 50% of the demolished waste is due to the concrete and related heavy building materials. What we can do about this? With growing concerns over climate change and the finite nature of the available resources, there is increasing pressure on construction industry to optimize resource efficiency to reduce environmental impacts. World population will continue to grow in the next 30 years, accompanied with rapid urbanization. As the need for buildings and infrastructure continues to grow worldwide, reducing consumption of natural resources and increasing the use of alternative or recycled material by reducing the associated emissions is crucial for future sustainability. As mentioned earlier, concrete is the second most consumed commodity after water in the world. Irrespective of the evident impacts on the climate, concrete is likely to remain as the main construction material for many more decades to come. There are numerous ways how the concrete industry can increase its compliance with the demands of the sustainable development. Among them, increased use of alternative cementitious material, increased reliance on recycled material, improved mechanical properties, and reuse of wash water can be identified. Research has shown that it is possible to substitute cement with alternative byproducts from different industrial processes such as fly ash, rice husk ash, and slag, with positive impacts. Aggregate constitutes the bulk of concrete. Therefore, an effective use of recycled aggregates will lessen the demand for virgin material. Although the reuse of demolished concrete to produce fresh concrete began as early as in 1945, much remains to be investigated. Almost half of the virgin aggregates in the world are used in the construction industry each year. The annual amount of construction and demolished waste produced in Sri Lanka exceeds 4 million tons, and management of waste has already become an environmental problem as demolished waste is mostly dumped in landfills. Much research has been conducted in Sri Lanka as well as elsewhere to investigate the suitability of recycled aggregates as a construction material to produce structural concrete. Let us have a look at the local recycled aggregate properties as well as properties of concrete in structural elements made of recycled aggregates. Gradation of aggregates affect concrete properties such as bulk density, physical stability, permeability, etc. Hence, considered an important parameter. It could be seen that both natural aggregates as well as recycled aggregates have a dense yet similar gradation. Usually, recycled aggregates have higher water absorption as well as Los Angeles abrasion value than the natural aggregates due to the attached mortar on recycled aggregate surfaces. The research revealed that 50% of natural aggregates can be easily replaced with recycled aggregates in structural as well as non-structural concrete without significantly affecting the concrete properties without using any admixtures. This will lead to around 50% saving of natural aggregates and therefore reducing environmental burdens, enhancing sustainability with a minimum of 20% cost reduction. Estimated fine aggregates, that is sand demand as of 2018 in Sri Lanka was about 22 million cubic meters. Majority of the sand demand is made by natural river sand in the country. Excessive extraction of sand from rivers resulting in widely ranging of impacts. On the other hand, the high demand for fine aggregates has increased the sand prices significantly over the last several years. Therefore, finding an alternative natural sand in construction industry is a major topic that has cropped up every so and then. We have looked at the use of recycled aggregates manufactured from construction waste as an alternative for fine aggregates in bedding mortar. It was seen that all the fine aggregate mixers we tested, mostly within the standard envelope accepted for fine aggregates to be used in bedding mortar applications. It would be seen that 50% of natural fine aggregates can be easily replaced with recycled fine aggregate at a higher water cement ratio, around 0.7%, to achieve the optimum workability as well as strength, while achieving up to a 50% cost reduction and enhance environmental sustainability. The negative attributes due to higher fine content as well as chloride content can be negated by a simple washing process, allowing a higher replacement of recycled fine aggregates. Overexploitation of conventional building materials such as clay, river, sand, and soil to make walling materials such as bricks, cement, sand blocks, etc. has caused numerous environmental problems due to mining of the same. Also, ever-increasing demolition waste management has become another challenge today. In an attempt to find cost-effective and environmentally friendly alternative walling material, the suitability of recycled fine coarse aggregates to produce concrete hollow blocks was investigated. The 28-day compressive strength of all the types of recycled aggregate hollow blocks were able to meet the minimum requirement as per the SLS 855 standard of 1.5 newtons per millimeter square. It was seen that a mixture of 136 as the most economical among the studied mixtures. And recycled concrete hollow blocks have the potential to give a cost-effective, sustainable solution to manage the increasing volumes of demolished waste as well. The major drawbacks that hinder the use of recycled aggregates in the structural concrete are found to be its porous attached mortar on the surface of recycled coarse aggregates and the micro cracks formed on the surface of recycled aggregates during its manufacturing process. The porous surface of recycled aggregates increases the water absorption capacity drastically. the workability of concrete made with recycled aggregates consequently will have varied due to its high water absorption. Due to high porosity of recycled aggregates, the interfacial transition zone, that is ITAZ, between the new cement paste and recycled aggregate become very porous, weak, leading to low strength gain in concrete. It has been found in the bond between recycled aggregates and the new cement paste could be strengthened. The negative effect it has on the properties of concrete can be negated. It would be possible to enhance the strength of the aggregate and reduce the water absorption at the same time if the pores present on the surface of recycled aggregates could be filled with finely divided mineral admixtures. This will strengthen the ITZ, thereby strengthening the concrete made with it. Rice husk ash, a good pozzolanic material as well as a commonly found waste material in Sri Lanka, was selected to improve the recycled aggregates in this work. Rice husk ash is a waste produced from the parboiling process of rice. The rice plant absorbs silicon dioxide from the substrate and store it in the husk of the rice grain. Consequently, rice husk ash has a high percentage of silicon dioxide, which is a good pozzolanic material. It was observed that the incorporation of rice husk ash in concrete can reduce permeability, enhance workability, reduce heat evolution, and obtain large strength gains. We studied the effectiveness of varying proportions of recycled rice husk ash cement slurry as a microfiller to improve the surface properties of recycled aggregates, enabling the reduction of high water absorption. Micromorphology studies done on recycled aggregates improved with the carbonation and surface treatment methods have shown that carbonation significantly improves the mechanical properties and the dry shrinkage resistance of the recycled concrete. Further, the slurry wrapping technique used has greatly enhanced the aggregate properties as well. Concrete made with both treated recycled aggregates and natural aggregates achieved a 28-day compressive strength of 30 newtons per millimeter squared. The slump of treated recycled aggregate concrete was observed in the specific range of 60 to 180 millimeter as well. It was seen that the negative impacts of recycled aggregates has on the fresh and hardened concrete properties can be negated by the treatment method being proposed as well. A clear methodology for commercial scale reuse of construction and demolition waste in concrete could be designed by integrating the slurry treatment method to the crushing plant process. This would increase the resource efficiency while recycling of construction debris as an aggregate can be considered as a vital step towards achieving sustainability in concrete construction and in the country. Green roof is a specially engineered rooftop that supports plant life. Green roofs regulate building internal temperature and reduce building heating and cooling costs while also functioning as a sustainable decentralized stormwater management system by reducing runoff as well as replacing vegetation, providing aesthetically pleasing environment in the same location. Also, structures such as buildings, roads and other infrastructure absorb and re-emit the sun's heat more than natural landscapes such as forests and water bodies. Urban areas where these structures are highly concentrated and greenery is limited become islands of higher temperatures relative to the outlying areas. Daytime temperatures in urban areas are about 1 to 7 Fahrenheit higher than temperatures in outlying areas. Nighttime temperatures are about 2 to 5 Fahrenheit degrees higher. Green roofs also help to reduce these urban heat island impacts. There are two categories of green roof designs, such as intensive green roofs, gardens supporting large trees, shrubs, and extensive green roofs supporting plant species such as herbs, grasses, and mosses. Intensive green roof gardens generally need a deeper substrate than regular maintenance, while extensive green roof is usually designed to have ecological function rather than aesthetic. The green roofs usually consist of several layers such as waterproofing, insulation, drainage, geotextiles, or filter layer, growing medium, and finally the vegetation. Irrespective of the numerous benefits the green roof bring into the built environment, the added imposed load on the building structure leads to larger structural elements. This will lead to added costs, material overuse. Therefore, if the self-weight of the green roof can be reduced while remaining the already identified benefits, the green roofs will serve its full sustainability impacts on the green buildings. Suitability of three growing mediums such as coir, sawdust, wood chips mixed with a base medium at different mixed proportions were studied, and the thermal performance during the heat gain loss, stormwater retention, capacity, and drought tolerance were monitored. Coir growing medium showed the overall best performance, hence a mixture of base medium and coir of 60-40 proportion with a 40 mm thick layer could be recommended to achieve the optimum outcome. However, further studies are needed to further optimize the unit weight of the selected growing medium by investigating the optimum growing bed thickness. Sustainable resource consumption and production is one of the 17 SDGs in Sri Lanka need to achieve as a country. Sustainability of the construction industry can contribute Sri Lanka to achieve this goal in an efficient manner. Sustainable use of different construction materials, water, and energy in projects will allow all the stakeholders involved to build and operate such facilities in a better manner. Reduction of rapid resource depletion, less environmental pollution can be considered as great benefits to a country and its citizens. Though the impacts due to the building infrastructure is well understood, the quantification of the same is very complicated due to the numerous factors such as complex nature of the inputs used, long lifespans leading to complications in operation and demolition stage, varying use of technology used in different countries and regions, etc. Also, the understanding of the environmental impacts is made more difficult due to the interrelating nature of different pollution inputs on air, water, soil. Models, if used correctly, can be considered as very versatile tools to understand and interpret such complicated scenarios. Building models using life cycle assessment approach can help in deciding on the best material and processes with the lowest impact on the environment. This approach can also be used to compare materials, building design forms, and possible construction and operation and demolition energy water requirements at the same time and make informed decisions at the design stage itself. Projects seeking green rating accreditations locally or internationally need to make claims on use of energy, water, and building materials showing the environmental impacts. However, the unavailability of detailed assessment techniques and local data has hindered such requirements in Sri Lanka. National Research Council funded research is underway to develop a robust model tool considering the holistic nature of sustainability and an integrated approach based on multiple aspects, which is essential to assess sustainability of building projects using life cycle approach. The model will help engineers, architects in the construction industry to analyze their projects with respect to sustainability dimension as well as economical dimensions. Furthermore, they would be able to make informed decisions regarding the selection of resources such as energy, water, building material, as well as construction methods in infrastructure projects to minimize the global and local impacts such as material depletion, ozone layer depletion, eutrophication, etc. Considering all, I call, let's engineer a better tomorrow for you, for your sons, and for your daughters. Thank you. Let me take 1 minute to make this an opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to all of you, including Madam General President, Council members, members of Section C, who were here this evening in person as well as online to witness the address. Especially I need to mention the support I got from Section C from very beginning till to the end. May I thank each and every one of you sincerely. Your presence was a great encouragement and strength to me. Thank you very much. Last but not least, I wish to thank all my family members, including my husband, my son and daughter, my brother and 2 sons, and my sister and her son for their presence today. Though they are not present here today to witness this special event, I wish to offer my sincere love and gratitude to my beloved parents, as well as my alma mater, and also my parent-in-laws. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Professor Karunaratne, for your very informative presidential address, for conducting a very successful section this year. This is an appreciation from the SLAS. So this will conclude today's presidential addresses. I wish to thank everybody who were here. Some were here the whole day. And all the presenters, all the sectional presidents, they made really good presentations. Presidential addresses were very impressive. And I wish to thank the FOSS Media and everybody who supported us, especially the SLA's staff and everybody who made this event a success. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening.